So you want to buy a Jeep. That's I don't really know how to get into this, but so I bought a 2020 Jeep Gladiator a couple weeks ago. My first Jeep product, first anything like that. Mopar, Chrysler, all that stuff. Owned Chevy truck before this, so that's the closest thing I've had. So I kind of want to compare the two. Mind you, the Chevy was a 2012 Chevy 1500 4x4 extended cab, short bed. Great truck. Put 200,000 miles on it. It's been it was awesome. As far as motor, transmission, great. Really didn't have any issues. Moving to the Jeep kind of came about because what I decided that I didn't really need a full-size truck anymore. I would love to have had one, but the new ones now are big. Those cabs are big. They're big on the inside. They're nice. They're beautiful. But it was just too big of a vehicle, I thought. They keep going up in price, or up in price and up in size, which is a little, the size of a 1500 now is what a 2500 was a few years ago. It's crazy to me. So I'd kind of decided on a mid-size, and that's your, Chevy Colorado, Ford Ranger, your Tacoma, or your Jeep. I really wasn't looking at much else. I ruled out the Ranger, just don't know enough about them. I didn't know anybody that had one that I could drive or at least get some opinions on. So it was really leaving the Tacoma and the Jeep, either the Wrangler or the Gladiator, or the Colorado. The Colorado's kind of new. That's kind of a new engine setup, at least to me. It's not what I would consider tried and true, but so I had to make a decision. So I looked at the Tacomas, and I do have a friend that has a newer Tacoma, kind of in the year range that I was looking at. And that was like 2018 to 2022, something, nothing brand new. Just couldn't afford it. So I talked to him, and he'd had a couple issues with his, and I was like, okay, they weren't anything major. It wasn't like the motors were falling out of them or anything, but so I called some family members, because I have a few family members that's all they have is Jeeps, big lifted Jeeps and stuff like that. So I kind of showed them my worries, or talked to them about some worries that I had with it. And they said, well, what you need to do is you need to go drive one for one. Two, it's all in what you like. This is my family, they're not salesmen. So after looking at both, to me, I felt like I had more room inside the Jeep. Definitely the back seat had more room than at least the one I was comparing to. So that left me between the Wrangler and the Gladiator. I knew I was looking for 2020, same sort of years. It was hard to find anything that was older than 2020 that didn't have a bunch of miles on it, though. So I found this one with like 50,000 on it. It's a 2020. Oh look, there's a Colorado as I'm talking about this. But basic squirrel, ADHD guys. So basically I made the decision to go with the Gladiator because, one, I couldn't see myself not having a bed. I love being able to just throw everything in the back. We hunt, we go duck hunting, things like that. You get all nasty waders and stuff, just throw them in the bed. At least it's not in the vehicle like it would be on a Wrangler. Yeah, so to kind of compare the two, the Jeep's noisier. It's noisier inside, guys. The top comes off, the doors come off, like they're not a super strong, I'm not gonna say not strong. It's, you got to have a compromise somewhere. And if you can remove the roof, it's not going to be big, heavy, and strong. There's not going to be a ton of sound deadening. That being said, it's not that bad. I've been in worse vehicles with road noise or whatever. It's not crazy. This is currently with a little bit of a lift and 35s, mud tires, mud terrain. So I'm sorry, but you're not going to have anything that you can throw a 35-inch mud tire on that's not going to have some road noise. Tire selection, I think, is huge on that. You got much quieter tires. Generally a mud terrain or something of that nature, it's usually quieter when you first put it on, and when you get about half tread, it seems to get more noisy. I don't know if it's the tire compound, what it is, it just seems to be the way it is. So even what you're hearing now, these are at about 50% tread. I don't even know if you can hear it, but you know, it's not crazy inside the cab. I read a bunch of reviews and stuff, and people are like, you can't even talk on the phone inside there while you're driving, yada yada yada. I don't know. It's not my case. I can easily use either an AirPod when I'm talking on the phone or the car's Bluetooth and talk on the phone, and I haven't had any issues. Let's talk about turning radius compared to the Chevy that I had. That Chevy took 3 lanes to do a U-turn. It's just the way it was. That's the second Chevy I've owned, and the one before that was like a 2007 single cab long bed. Same thing. It was worse than the 2012. They had done something, I guess, to make it better. Or maybe difference in body and bed, not sure. But that single cab was absolutely horrible. If you try to do a U-turn in 3 lanes, you were going to hit the curb on the other side to get all the way around, guaranteed. This drives like a small SUV. It really does. It really does. It drives. A friend of mine has a what's he got? He has a Ford Escape. It drives similar to that with big tires. It fits anywhere. You really don't have these big sweeping turns you have to take. You can pull right into a parking spot, back out of it, that sort of thing. It's great when it comes to that. Steering in the sense of hitting a bump, yeah, it moves around a bit. It's not, it is what it is. Like I said, you gotta have some compromises if you want to have a lifted vehicle, I think. Especially if you're still trying to be light and actually use it. You want a big diesel lifted truck that drives nice, sure. The truck weighs a ton. It really doesn't move around the road a bunch. Some of them do with cheaper lifts, but you got to think about the weight of the vehicle. These are relatively light for what a lot of people compare them to. And I did the same. I always compared a Jeep to a Chevy 1500, a Ford F-150, and I was wrong. It's not. It's, technically a mid-sized vehicle. And for me, picking the mid-sized vehicles, what the choices are, it was the better of the pick. It checked the most boxes out of everything. Now, did it check the most boxes and have some negatives? Yeah, sure. Every vehicle does. Every vehicle manufacturer is having something weird right now, I feel like. Or just some, oddball thing that's going on. What are we talking about? Gas mileage, better than the Chevy. Obviously, the Chevy had a 4.8 liter, so it's a small V8. This has the 6-cylinder 3.6 gas. On paper, it makes decent power. It really does. Once you put a little bit of a lift and tires, it really hurts them. Definitely looking into get it re-geared. Probably just doing it myself in the driveway over a weekend. But I think that'll really help this, even on 35s. This is the Rubicon, so it comes with 410 gears. Is it bad? No. But if it's, if medium is good, and that's what everybody's saying, it's definitely on the lower end, on the lower end of that. 410, I don't think is enough gear for a 35-inch tire on one of these. Take it for what it is, just my opinion. Me, the talking head driving home from work. It's just my opinion. I would definitely, if you want to lift one, you want to put some tire underneath it. Yeah, definitely re-gear is the way to go. You don't have the low end torque that a V8 has, a V8 gives. I see they are making them in the Wranglers and stuff they're making in with a 392 in them now. If you can swing the bill on that one, I guess go for it. You know, I haven't driven one, haven't been around one. So to clarify, I guess a little bit, I use my Jeep mainly for just exploring and hunting, off-road stuff. I'm not a big mudder or rock crawler. I live in Florida. There's no rocks to crawl. There are some parks around that you can do some stuff in, but generally, if you're on one of these hunting trails or something like that, there's no crazy stuff to go over like that. Not what I see out west, at least. There's a lot of mud here, and compared to some other states that I've seen, the mud here is different. Sorry for anybody else that thinks they got some nasty stuff. It's nothing compared to what I've seen before. What else? Miles per gallon. Right now, I'm averaging 17 exactly. I drive about 30 miles on the highway to work in the morning, but coming home, I take sort of the back roads or whatever. Just the interstate by me gets backed up too quick, and then you got nowhere to go. So at least you can keep it moving a little bit on the way home or change your route. And I usually got somewhere to stop. What am I thinking? What else? Jeep culture. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Having a Jeep for all of 2.5, 3 weeks now. Everybody waves at you. Everyone that has a Jeep waves at you here. Nobody warned me about that. You just have some random person waving and you give them a funky look because you're like, what's up? But Jeep people wave at you. They also leave ducks on your car. You didn't know. Yeah, that was a whole thing. I will say this, the Jeep is not I don't know, some people have a misconception about Jeeps being a military vehicle. It's not. It's a box SUV that is the Lego of cars. It really is. Anything you want to get for them, you can get, and there's about 10 different versions, and they're priced accordingly. Some of it's a little crazy, but priced accordingly for quality, that is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's an SUV at the end of the day to me. It's not, I would not. Now, mind you, I want to say this. I believe this Jeep in its configuration, 8-speed automatic, whatever, it says towing capacity is like 7,500 pounds, something like that. On that 2012 Chevy that I had, the way it's spec'd out, and I don't care what you say, because I found it looking up the VIN, the tow capacity, so apples to apples, the tow capacity of that was 5,500 pounds. So, in theory, even with the 6-cylinder, this Jeep can tow more than that Chevy could. Do I think 7,500 pounds is stretching it? Yeah. I would do 80%. Haven't towed anything with this. I only have a small boat to tow around, a John boat for hunting and stuff. But from what I can tell, I couldn't imagine 7,500 pounds behind this thing. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't done it yet. Like I said, disclaimer there. I haven't done it yet. I probably won't. I don't think I ever put more than 5,000 pounds behind my Chevy. So there's that. It doesn't make a ton of low-end torque, that I will say. I'm hoping the regear here helps with that. But to me, it's definitely lacking, even compared to the Chevy. The Chevy had more power. It was a heavier truck, I believe. But it had more power, more low-end torque. I won't, up top, 3rd, 4th, 5th gear in this thing, definitely faster even on 35s than the Chevy was on stock tires, but some of the trade-offs, I guess, like I said, I mentioned the road noise from the tires, and then I'm talking just typical road noise like wind hitting the side of this thing. This is a box going down the road. There's literal memes about a cow being more aerodynamic than a Jeep. So wind catches you, pushes you. When you hit a bump, it's going to sway a little bit. I don't know, it is what it is. Everyone talks about, geometry this, geometry that. I don't know. I haven't really gotten into the geometry of the front end on these things much, but this is fairly stock, and it'll still sway in the wind. You hit a bump, it still wants to go somewhere. In a way, I do believe that those, what are they? The steering stabilizers, especially the upgraded ones, are more of masking a problem. I'm not getting anything like death wobble, nothing like that. But I think upgrading that is definitely masking a bigger problem you have in your suspension. Is something's loose, bushing's wore out, whatever. Because there are guys that are running around here, even 37, 38-inch tires, 4 inches of lift, whatever, that use the stock steering stabilizer. And they're driving those things on the highway all the time. Now, what's good for somebody may not be good for somebody else. That's the other thing. You got tons of ways you can go about it, and tons of ways you can think about a car and what you use it for. Because I just saw a guy in the traffic in that Colorado, and I guarantee that thing is perfect for him. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit there and I wouldn't tell somebody who went and bought any of those other vehicles that they bought the wrong thing. Nothing like that. Because I'm sure for anybody else that says Jeeps are bad or this is better, the vehicle they have works better for them, and that's the biggest thing. This is a lot of, it's a vehicle. It's a very personal choice. And for the same token, nobody in the Jeep, at least I haven't seen it, anybody in a Jeep sit there and go, oh, you made the wrong choice by getting a Tacoma. I've never heard that. So, there's something to that too. Just, it's whatever checks the most boxes for you, I think. This is probably all common knowledge, that people have. I just see a lot of back and forth on the internet and forums and stuff where, oh no, Tacoma with independent front suspension's way better and this and that. I don't know. I'm sure it works better for those guys, and who knows? I could end up getting one of those. I got something going on. Could end up getting one of those. It's what else? Something else I wanted to talk about. Oh, the front axle. Let's talk about that. Mine has the FAD, where I guess it disconnects the part of the front axle or whatever for gas mileage. I don't know. I've heard them cracking at the housing there. It's a steel pipe into a cast part. It's always going to be a weak point. They make delete kits, although the delete kit doesn't make any sense to me, because from what I've seen, it's not the FAD or FAD, whatever. It's not it actually failing. It's the actual housing failing. It's the housing getting a crack in it, which has nothing, to me, has to do with stress. It has nothing to do with the actual part. I know, and what I will probably do regardless is truss the front end. The truss kits, I think you can get a front and rear kit for about $350, something like that. I know some of them require somewhat of a lift. I'm not sure. Check the specs if you're looking at one. But I believe, don't know, I believe, from what I've seen, some of the kits, it looks like you can do it while the axle's still installed, which would be awesome. If you got in there with a little die grinder, grind it down and weld it in. They are welded, and I don't think they can make any bolt-on ones. But yeah, just weld it in, kind of, make your marks, make sure everything fits good before you start. And then from what if you've ever done any welding on an axle, you're not going to burn in, from one side to the other. You're going to kind of move around. You'd want to go around it the whole way and kind of tack it in. I mean, obviously, if you can weld it, this. I'm not really just a talking head, like I said, on my way home. But yeah, you do want to move around it so you don't heat up the pipe and warp it, or heat up the axle, the main housing, and warp anything. Because it will happen. It will, warp and buckle, especially with that much heat. So yeah, I mean, that's a easy fix. I want to say it's about $1,000 to have one installed around here. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into prices, but if I had to guess, maybe get the part and it installed, depending on how they're going to do it. They're going to leave the axle in the vehicle, maybe with the truss kit and having it installed, probably around $1,000. And that is what it is. I mean, you're gonna spend $1,000 on a decent welder, so if you don't already have one. So, and if you know how to weld, you probably have a welder. So, that's neither here nor there. What else? The dry startup problem's another thing. That's taking some a little bit of getting used to. It might be like a normal thing after you own a Jeep for, a year or whatever. You don't notice it. You're hearing your rockers all clack as soon as you start this thing up in the morning. It's weird, especially to anybody who's not used to that. They make a device, I think it's made by Baxter is the name. Kind of goes in there and keeps the oil from draining down. It replaces your I don't know if it replaces the housing where your oil filter goes. Basically goes inside there, and you use, you're going to end up using not a canister filter anymore, or not I can't remember what it's called right now. Not just a filter without a housing. It's going to take a standard, whatever filter with a metal housing around it, just mount it upside down. I like that idea because I hate those. I like that even besides the canister. It just being a mess with the plastic housing. Those plastic housings always round off. I used to own an Audi, same thing. A couple of years, and it's like I was replacing the housing, and I'm being careful. I'm not tightening it down too much, whatever. I don't know if the Jeeps are like that. Maybe they're made out of something a little stronger, but that was always a pain. So the idea that you can put this device, I want to say it's like $350, and then just use a standard filter and get rid of that plastic housing. That sounds great to me. They put too much plastic stuff in these cars anyways. And that Baxter device fixes the dry start problem because it doesn't allow the oil to just drain back down. I guess there's nothing, I'm assuming it's just a check valve type deal, nothing actually holding the filter up. So, holding the oil up to the filter. So basically it starts up kind of dry. Plus it's using a 020 oil. To me, that's thin. I don't, not an engineer, but your 020 is fairly thin. I know there's thinner oils out there, but whatever. I know back in the day, the oil, it didn't, it's shear strength, shear weight, whatever. Basically the 020 wasn't supposed to degrade as fast as like a 530 or whatever, or a 30 weight. Don't know, couldn't tell you. Again, not an engineer, just talking shit. But I'm definitely gonna look. I live in Florida. It gets fairly hot here. I'm wearing a jacket now because it's 70 degrees and that's cold for us. But here in a couple of months it'll be right back to, you'll wake up in the morning, it's 85 degrees, and it'll never get below 90 again through the day. So, and it's hot. Everything's hot when it's like that. So maybe a little bit more protection, that sort of thing. Wouldn't be a bad idea, along with the Baxter device. I don't know. I'll do some more reading on it. I'm sure there's other guys that are much more intelligent than me. Like I said, not trying to reinvent the wheel, just trying to make sure the engine's taken care of. Let's talk about this is mainly to do with the top and just the interior. The interior seems to be decent. Again, only owned it a couple weeks, but when I turn, you can tell the top comes off. Let's put it that way. It's not super solid. So if that sort of thing's gonna bother you, don't get one, because it has taken a little bit getting used to. I had heard about the tops kind of creaking, or maybe a little bit more noise. And again, I'm not saying don't buy one. Do what you want. Do your research. Honestly, what a good idea would be is to go ahead and, like, if you can rent one of these. I don't know if anywhere rents them. I think there is actually a place here that rents specifically Jeeps. It's like not like a national rental place. It's like a local rental place where you can rent like a lifted Jeep, lifted truck, that sort of thing. If I were to do it again, or you're really not sure, I'd probably do that. That way you can at least see. I don't know, rent one for a weekend, go on a trip, drive it on the highway. That's probably the best thing to do. I mean, that's probably true with any car, because everything from rentals can be fairly new. Go ahead and do that. See if you like it. I mean, you may have to be a little. I'm not going to say you can rent one and go take it off road. Don't do that unless you're allowed to. But get some ideas. I will add that. I know it kind of may seem like I'm kind of dogging the Jeep a little bit. It's growing on me. I haven't completely converted yet to a Jeep guy. I'm still a Chevy guy at heart, I guess. But I will say it is growing on me. But for all the things that it lacks on road, it makes up for them off road compared to my old truck. And I kept good. My truck was in good shape. I took good care of it. Always changed the oil. I had just redone the entire front end on it 2 years ago. Upper lower control arms with ball joints, everything brand new in the front end. Redid, put some shocks all the way around on it. And basically, I knew I was going to get a new vehicle soon. I was a little over 200,000 miles on that thing, so I knew eventually I was going to have to do something. I was trying to, get through the next year or two until I kind of made a decision on what I wanted. But it's been, for me, it's been great so far. I mean, I took it. I bought it on a Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, I think I bought it on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And I went on a weekend-long camping trip that weekend. Did great. I kind of wanted to put it through its paces a little bit. Use the four-wheel drive, that sort of thing. It did great. I noticed pretty quickly, and I didn't even air down the tires for that. It wasn't anything crazy. But it already, even with running, like 40 pounds of air pressure was I think what was in the tires. I've dropped it a little now just to get a little more cushion, but it made up for its off-road capabilities. It was already a more comfortable ride. I don't know if that's to do with it being I don't think it has to do with it being a straight front axle in this thing, but it definitely was more comfortable off-road than even my Chevy was. Part of that may have to do with the weight. The Chevy's heavy, especially being four-wheel drive and a full-size truck. I mean, it's those trucks are only getting heavier and bigger. It's crazy. But yeah, so far, all in all, I'm liking it. I'll probably, like I said, I know I kind of dogged it a little bit there in the beginning, telling you all the things I didn't like about it. But it is growing on me. It definitely is, more of an outdoor friendly, for me, an outdoor friendly vehicle, I was going to say. For me, the top coming off and things like that, I don't think that's me. That's not why I bought it. I bought it to have a more, capable vehicle off-road without sinking a bunch of money into something. But, I mean, hey, it's, give it a shot. Like I said, it's growing on me. It does, like, I want to emphasize, how better it steers and drives around and pulls into parking spaces, that sort of thing. It really does. It's like I said, you got a little bit more feedback when you hit bumps and things like that. But anybody could jump into one of these and drive. I mean, you go to, and I'm not like dogging Chevy, but those things have gotten so big. I don't know that I would put somebody who's never driven a truck in one, but I would put somebody who's never driven a truck in one of these. Like I said, it drives more like a small SUV. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will add the bed. The bed is small compared to a pickup. I think it's got like a 5-foot bed exactly on it, and coming from, I want to say the bed on my Chevy was like a 6'8" bed. It's a lot smaller. You put 4 things in the back of there and it's full. I mean, you know, 4 little bins. You know, I keep one bin full of, I do have a winch on here, just a 10,000 pound Warren winch. So I have a container in the back with just, you know, recovery stuff, snatch block straps, that sort of thing. And it would, with that and like a camping table and a cooler, it's, you know, it's pretty full where I could have, the problem too is not the length or width of the bed, which obviously the length is shorter. It is a little narrower. It's the depth too. I think I saw something that was like 30 inches is the depth. It's not. I'm sorry. It's, you know, I'd have to measure it, I guess, but it is a very shallow bed. Because I have the same container, because I kept all that same stuff in my Chevy, and I could put another box just like it on top of it and it still fit under the bed cover, where in here there's no way I could do that. It would stick up like 4 inches, 5 inches. But you know, it's a smaller vehicle at the end of the day. You know, it's you know, we're not comparing apples to apples here. We're comparing an older full-size truck to, you know, a mid-size truck basically. So any one of the, I'm sure I would have had that issue going with any of the other options I was looking at, just because it's, you know, naturally smaller. But yeah, that's all I got for you. I just kind of wanted to get some of my thoughts out, mainly kind of to look back on this video and kind of see if I chuckle at myself in the future, and kind of just, you know, things I maybe was worried about or that I just don't even notice anymore. But yeah, so thank you for watching, listening to my rambles on the way home. Have a good day.